And I did. After 15 months sober, I went back out for 3 more years. And I I was, although I was a high performer on the outside, very high functioning, I just was like my core values, like earlier, did not align with Tony Party Time. And that is what my friends called me, Tony Party Time. And she was something. But during the pandemic in 2020 is when I had an opportunity because in Michigan, we were shut down. We couldn't gather indoors. And as you noted earlier, I work in pro hockey. And so we were dark the 21-22 season, 2021 season. Anyway, and so we didn't play. I was still working full time, but from home. So I had this opportunity. I was like, you know what, Tony, you can either drink your face off or you can work on this because you have a window and you know it's a limited window.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
What happens when a high-performing executive in professional hockey decides that success alone is not enough? What happens when the pressure is constant, expectations are public, and you realize that functioning is not the same as thriving? Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck, here to help you live life on purpose and not by accident. Toni Will operates at the executive level in professional sport. She is the general manager and governor of Kalamazoo Wings in the ECHL, responsible for hockey operations, business strategy, team performance, and organizational culture in one of the most competitive environments in professional sports leadership. But behind the executive title is a deeper story. After building a successful career, Toni made the intentional decision to live alcohol-free. Not because she hit rock bottom, not because she could not function, but because she wanted clarity, alignment, and sustainable performance without burnout, numbing, or people-pleasing. Today, she is also an alcohol-free performance coach, TEDx speaker, host of the Women in Podcast, creator of the Empower Her conference, and the author of the forthcoming book, Rebellious Success. This conversation is about leadership under pressure, executive performance, identity beyond achievement, behavior first change, accountability, resilience, and intentional momentum. Toni, I'd like to welcome you to the Give a Heck podcast. Thanks for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Hey, Dwight, it's a pleasure to be here and a very clever name for your podcast. It drew me in immediately. So I want to tell you that.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have, it took me forever, Toni. Some of the new listeners may not understand the story. My legal last name, they still don't understand, is Heck. It's a European name. You can go look it up. It's been around like for literally hundreds and hundreds of years. And I had somebody when I decided to brand myself during the pandemic and create the Give a Heck say, "Why aren't you using your last name?" I was in a mastermind that I belonged to, and we were
Yeah.
trying to juggle names and trying to figure it out. And somebody said, "Why aren't you using your last name?" And it was a branding expert that I actually met that was being interviewed on another podcast. And we became friends. And then I became friends with another branding expert, and they all said the same thing. Are you crazy? People would love to be able to do that, right? With their name. And yours is, you can legally do it. It took me 3 years to get it trademarked too,
Yeah, I
right?
did. My name
It
is
took,
actually right for the picking. I should be doing something with Will.
oh, you should. So the Give a Heck brand is trademarked. But it's trademarked. Even my logo's trademarked.
Yeah.
It took a long time though. I was shocked. But at the end of the day, it's so important for us to utilize whatever we can, that call to action, that hook to make people stop
Yeah.
and stand up and be present, right? So the Give a Heck name just sprouted up in 2020 and it's been going strong ever since. And yeah, I even rebranded my finance company to the government. And yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Cool.
Um, right? Because in life, really, what do we want? We want somebody to notice us.
Mhm.
We want to be heard. We want to be recognized. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to
Yeah.
give a heck because I felt like that lonely person that wasn't heard. I don't care if I stood on stages and talked or if people come up to me and, oh, we've read your book, we've done this or done that. It doesn't mean anything when I still felt lonely in a room, right? So I want people to not feel that way. I want them to realize that somebody does care about them. They do give a heck. So that's why you're on the show. I look forward to our conversation.
Same.
So before we go anywhere else, I talked to you a little about the fact that I like starting at the beginning of a person's life, their origin, right? What made, little Tony tick? Did something happen in your life that was, and it doesn't have to be negative. Sometimes it's really, it can be positive. But a lot of people don't look back at their origin and realize that though the past is not indicative of our future, there is clues of
Yeah.
who we become and why we've changed, good, bad, or indifferent. So if you could do me a favor and share your origin story, whatever you feel comfortable to where you are, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so I would label my origin story as pretty mid-America. I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in a little town, well, a little town outside of Kalamazoo, which is called Vicksburg, Michigan. And people are like, there really is a Kalamazoo? Yes, there is. It is smack dab in between Chicago and Detroit on I-94. And people know where Chicago and Detroit is. So Kalamazoo is right in the middle of both those two big cities. And so I've been born and raised here my entire life. And my mom and dad, my mom was a school teacher, an elementary school teacher, and my dad was an entrepreneur. And I have a younger brother, and I grew up in a four family household. My parents were married for nearly 50 years until my mom passed last year of Alzheimer's. And my dad is 83 years old and lives in Florida now. So it my life growing up was very privileged. It was my parents poured a lot into my brother and I, and they paid for our college education. They were supportive of our sporting endeavors, of our education, of our careers. And I was this version of me you see now, the 47, almost 48-year-old version of me. You can picture me with my glasses and my short hair because this is what I looked like as a little girl, too. I was climbing trees, I was riding bikes, I was doing gymnastics, I was a cheerleader, and I was always wearing bright colors. And I always loved cats. I was I was always just different. And something interesting happened growing up. Not I don't know where it came about, but I kind of labeled myself different even when I was younger. Very outgoing and made friends easily and always in leadership. Always um, wanted to be in charge, always creating new ideas. And so I've always kind of been the same person, but it's somewhere in my upbringing, I labeled myself a black sheep. And my brother was very good at school. I was, a C student. I think the best way to describe me in a nutshell is I like to color outside the lines. And what comes with that rebellious spirit oftentimes is, boy, she's too much, or she's hard to manage, or, and there are only certain people that understand me and I feel like get me, my dad being one of them. And so my mom and I had a great relationship, but it was tumultuous at times. And by the time she passed, everything was good. But I understood her better towards the end of her life because I took the time to reflect more and learn more. And I had changed a lot as I moved deeper into my 40s. So that's my origin. Really, that's what was Toni Lentini, who is now Toni Will.
I love it. It's I love hearing people's origin stories and feeling that commonality, right, in our own lives, and how we can, I was a person in school that didn't do the greatest either. I was a C student. It was not necessarily that I was rebellious, but it just wasn't my thing.
Mhm.
And my mom let me get away with more than my dad ever would. So I could get away with not doing homework or, you know what I mean? Or just skating by with C's. And, at the end of the day, it was what it is. But, in life, though, and I wrote some things down here, when I think about it, C students, I know more, and this may hurt some people listening or watching on YouTube. At the end of the day, I know more people that are successful that were C students than are A students. And again, it's not because intelligence happens because somebody gives you an A. Intelligence happens when you hit your stride, where you decide that you want to climb in life, you want to learn, and it's not so structured out of a book. And I find a lot of C people, and I've had it in my own career, my own life, dealing with people as a boss where they were A students. I was a C student, but I had a vision. I had more vision than they did. I wasn't stuck within that walls of the educational institute. And I'm not against education. I'm saying that most people that strive to be book smart aren't smart when it comes to application. They're stuck in their wall. They're very good as a scientist. They're very good as this position, this role, but they'd never be a C leader, being the person that's willing to take risks. Because really, when we start at C, we're taking a risk knowing that we could fail, right? We could fail at school. We're skating, right?
Yeah,
Maybe the odd time we get
exactly.
a B, right? And then we're a superstar. But I liked how you put that though, because at the end of the day, C students, we just push forward. We generate. You look at the wealthiest people in the world, most of them weren't high educated. They just
No.
weren't. They were
Yeah,
just tenacious. They were tenacity is a superpower, right? In my opinion.
totally
So
agree. And I was like that
yeah,
in college too. So
were you?
D's all the way through. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I like to think about is I'm peaking in my life probably right now, and some people peak in high school. No way. That wasn't me. I had a long mountain to climb. So I feel like I'm coming into my own as the closer and closer I get to 50.
I don't think you're ever going to peak.
Mm,
Just
I
getting to
like
know
that.
you. Or if people say, "How long are you going to keep on doing this, Dwight? When are you going to retire?" Never. Why? I'm going to learn till the day I take my last breath. And they'll go, "Why? When is
Mhm.
enough going to be enough?" What? You want me to sit on my couch and let my brain die?
I can't.
My brain needs to be fed. So I'm always on the climb. I haven't reached my peak yet.
I
And
like
at one
that. I'm
time,
going to take
right?
that page out of your book.
Absolutely. You could read my book. It's got lots of good advice like that. And everybody thinks my book's about finance. It's not. It's how to live life on purpose and not by accident. It talks very little about finance. My book is based on what we're doing right now. It
Yeah.
starts at the origin. It breaks down. This is a little bit of business. Here's some ideas. Here's this. Here's that.
Yeah.
Book's done.
Well, I'll have
Right?
to read it. I love to read, so yes.
Yes, but at the end of the day, we have a choice in life. We can stop growing and stop building, and then we let negativity take us over. And I think if we push out of our mindset that we haven't peaked, right? That we're not peaking. And after reading your stuff, there's no way you're close to your peak. That's just an outside person just meeting you. And I put lots of research in yesterday before we even come on today. Yeah, you're far from peaking. You're
Well, I love
you,
that. Thank you.
that's an outsider looking in. I think you're gonna never peak.
Oh, I
Why?
love
Because you don't want to achieve greatness. What's on the other side then?
exactly. Well, and my personality is such that I'm always finding a new mountain to climb, and I
And
love the challenge.
new levels of excitement.
Yes.
Like my podcast episode that I released this week is a solo. I do about 3, 4 solos a year, and it's just on people that have people that are gurus that say they know things and how I've allowed it. I take ownership. People take ownership of your own mistakes. It's easy to point fingers, but it points back at you too. And I literally did a podcast episode, it's only like 26 minutes, and all it does is talk about the fact of being more aware to utilize tools like AI properly to research somebody like Toni that says they're a coach, right? And don't just trust the fact that Toni got it was a referral from another person. maybe that other person owed Tony a favor, so referred you, even though they know Tony's not the greatest. Do you know what I mean? So the reason I bring this up is because at the end of the day, we always have to strive to grow. So every time I start doing new stuff, like I've been doing the last 2 months, and the podcast talks about that, and analyzing all aspects of my business, I got more excited. I got rejuvenated,
Yeah. A
right?
shot in the
And
arm.
shot in the arm, man. Like at the end of the day, people listening, it's okay to be camped temporarily, right? Don't think you arrived. Realize even if your business is where it's at, you could grow in so many other ways. What are your core values? Are you weak at any of them? Oh, you don't have core values? Oh, maybe you should figure some of those out, and then you can filter your life through that. You'll live better, you'll sleep better, you won't let stuff bother you as much, right? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
He's going. Dwight's going. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So, just thank you for sharing. That was great. Black sheep in school, pick me, right? Mother and father, I was opposite of you, right? With my parents, my dad and I had a tumultuous relationship. They're both still alive. My dad just turned 85. It's and my mom was the caregiver. My dad was the yin. There was a yin and yang there, obviously. My dad was the entrepreneur that taught me some harsh lessons, the good lessons. I was too young to understand, didn't realize till I was in my 20s how much he taught me. It's just life. Our origins are so important. So, growing up, what messages did you absorb about achievement, pressure, competition, or success? What did you actually pick up on all those?
My dad, I mentioned earlier, we have a very close relationship, and he was someone that was starting businesses, different business ventures throughout my entire childhood, and he was very open about discussing the highs and the lows of being an entrepreneur. And so that always fascinated me, and way more than my mom's teaching, being in the classroom with third graders. I had no desire to do anything like that. But the other thing my dad carried, traits that he carried, was he's still to this day plays softball all around the country. I call it his 80U team, like the 80-year-olds, and they play. And so I've watched him be active his whole life working out. And I used to go to the gym with him when I was younger. I loved being with my dad. And those traits you just mentioned came from being raised in that environment of, recreational sport. He played racquetball as well as softball. I would go on walks with him, like I don't know, power walk, I guess, whatever, back with my CD player and way back in the day. But it was just that competition, healthy competition, being a recreational athlete, it really started at a young age. And as a woman that's always been in leadership, playing like those, well, team sports like cheerleading, and I know that's controversial whether it's a sport or not. I've always argued that it is, having been a competitive cheer person and the captain of the team and first team all conference growing up. Those early days really shaped me in that way. And I knew at a young age too that business was interesting to me. And I wanted to learn how to be a good leader and business person. And that a lot of that came from my dad.
Isn't it interesting though how our learned behaviors in our life they really do control us, or we can accept our learned behaviors, learn to adapt to what's the good and bad and indifferent of it, and still accept it and move forward. I had so many learned behaviors, even though my dad was a workaholic entrepreneur, very, very successful entrepreneur. Like I said, I didn't learn lots from him until I was aware. It wasn't
Yeah.
that he wasn't teaching me. It was the awareness aspect of it. But, you know, entrepreneurship was in my blood from him,
Yeah.
right? I
That's it.
talk about in my book. My first people say, "What was your first entrepreneurship?" I was a paper boy delivering in minus 30 some weather with blizzards and rain, sleet, snow didn't matter in Canada. I was up and had to deliver the newspaper, and I had to collect money. I had doors slammed in my face because people wouldn't didn't couldn't afford to pay me, yet I still give them newspapers because I had to learn that people aren't as kind as I thought they were. And
Right.
they owed me 3 months, yet I was still giving them the newspaper. Right? My dad would sit me down. Let's talk about your business. Right? I was 12. I
Well,
was
yeah,
12,
you're a good
right?
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to learn how to write a check. You got to pay the paper guy. So he helped me with a few things when I first started out. But yeah, it's just you look back.
Yeah.
What guided us? Good, bad, right?
Exactly. Not that I want to get on my soapbox on this, I certainly can, but one of the things as I progressed through my life that I learned is and this, I mean, it sounds obvious, but I don't know that it is for a lot of people. We are shaped, like we come out of the womb as blank slates, and we are shaped by our environment. So and I'm sure we'll get into my story more, but challenging these beliefs that we were raised in, it will be helpful as you come of age. And some of these things that occurred in my life, um, and I know we'll probably talk about, well, I know it's in my bio about living alcohol free, but I wasn't surrounded by alcohol really. My parents were take it or leave it drinkers. My point in this is that at any stage of life, to start to question what our beliefs are and why we are who we are and what the choices we're making is really important. And so because I understand that now, I'm raising my children to question those things because maybe they don't believe how I raised them. They are going to have different beliefs, and that's okay.
But you've matured. You've grown since you raised them. Like I didn't have a parenting manual with number one. Things got better with number two, three, four, five, and I'm a different man, a different human than I was 5 weeks ago. And
Right.
people go, "What?" Yes, I'm different than I was 5 weeks ago. I'm different than I was 5 months, 5 years ago. I'm not the same parent. Now I have conversations with my kids and I'll say, "Oh, this," and I'll go, "You know what? I should have dealt with that differently. I'm sorry." And we have those open conversations. I don't want them to be sitting and festering on something that I was too immature or ignorant or maybe too emotionally involved. My emotional IQ is at a 2 and it should have been an 8 or a 10. And I made poor choices. But I'm not saying such bad choices like there wasn't violence or
Right.
alcoholism or drug addiction or anything, just poor choices and, you know, should have listened instead of advised.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So my point is you're a parent that's changed and grown and developed, and you're continuing to grow as a parent, and eventually it'll be a grandma, and then eventually it'll be a great grandma, and you know what I mean? You become a better friend as we age too. At least I think we do. We become better friends
Absolutely. Just overall better human being. And
by choice, by
by choice.
choice.
Yeah, and like the opening of your podcast talks about with intentionality, and I'm very passionate about that.
Oh, I'm very intentional, very purposeful about, and people listening, I am not perfect. I can't speak for Toni. I still have moments in my life where I go into the valley of despair and I have to climb out of it. The difference is my awareness level is fine-tuned to be aware of it and to pull myself out of it. And literally, I can tell you, and you can go back, listen, those listener watch, you can go back, listen to episodes that I've done on it. You can go read about it in I post about it quite often. You literally can make it so that you never have a bad day in your life. I'm on year 8,
It's awesome.
right? How do
Yeah,
you do that? It's a choice.
it
You can
is.
have, don't get me wrong, I have character building moments within those days. But why defeat yourself by saying I had a bad day?
Right.
Aren't you, are you appreciative that you opened your eyes up? Roof over your head, food in the fridge,
Yeah.
right? It's little
That's what
things like that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how I live my life. I write down 3 wins I had for the day and 3 things I want for tomorrow. It's a form of gratitude, and I close almost every day that way. And it's just one of the ways I live intentionally and
I love
with
it.
meaning and purpose. And it's just it feels weird when I don't do it now, but it took a long time to build that habit. So,
Oh my gosh. I do awareness exercises when I get up. I do them before I go to bed, and I do them throughout the day if I need it, right? Depending on my state of mind, maybe a bad phone call with a client or something that's happened tumultuous in my family. But at the end of the day, the more awareness I have, the more I smile,
yes.
the more I have a spring in my step, the more I realize, oh my gosh, I had a conversation with somebody today and I didn't realize their body language. I'm reaching out to them tomorrow. Hey, such and such. maybe I said something, I noticed something yesterday in your body language. Did I say something that offended you, or did I say something that maybe we need to work through? You'd be shocked. Well, you said this, it wasn't you intentionally, but it sparked this, and thank you for realizing it. Sometimes I hope I realize it while the conversation's going on, but sometimes I don't. So it's okay to realize, people listening or watching, that intentional living takes effort the
It
rest of
does.
your life.
Mm.
And that habit you talk about, Tony, sometimes I something happens, maybe I've had a bad night and I wake up and I'm in a rush and I forgot to do my awareness and my gratefulness, and I wonder why my day's off.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'll have that epiphany, 1:15 in the afternoon. I forgot to be grateful. Okay, take a time out, breathe. Okay, be grateful. Talk
Yeah.
about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Vulnerability, people listening, watching, I am not perfect. I'm a work in
No.
project.
Yo, same here. Far from it.
Yeah. So, um, at one point in time, though, we talk about this, and you mentioned about you have that natural drive, right? Throughout your life, have you had anybody that continually sparks you, that inspires you to continue to grow and develop?
It's just hardwired in me. I wouldn't say that there is externally, other than my dad, who I've talked obviously about a lot today,
Yeah.
but it's really been a fire that's been in my belly since the minute I came out, and I don't have any other way to explain it. I am just
That's your
always,
identity.
yeah, and I don't like to use definitive, so I'm not going to say I'm always motivated because I'm not, but I'm driven, and I like challenges, and I get antsy, and I want to help people, and I love to learn. So there's a lot that drives me that's just hardwired into this brain of mine.
Would people looking at you as a young child or growing up as a teenager into young adulthood, would they have labeled you as a leader? Was it obvious?
Hmm. Yes.
Because you
Yes, and it's
talked about it, but it doesn't mean did other people see it.
yes. It's interesting because someone reached out to one of my high school friends reached out to me on LinkedIn, I think it was last week, and he just said, "Tony, it's so cool to see the work you're doing and that you're an author now." And he said, "I knew you were like this when we were young." He's like, "I could always see this in you." And yes, I've always been a leader. It's been really hard for me when a teacher, or even to this day, someone will say, "We're looking for a volunteer," and they can't even get the words out what it is, and my hand immediately wants to go up for whatever it is, because I not only do I want to volunteer, but I want to lead it. And even if I don't know how to do it, I will figure it out. And I've always bet on me and go all in on me, whether I know what the heck I'm doing or not. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay.
Do you find that leadership can be tied to people pleasing too?
It can be, but for me, I would definitely, I'm not afraid to be the anti-people pleaser. I always say this, be kind but firm. And so that is very much a mantra I live by. And I am as even at it, it didn't really matter what age I was at. If I didn't feel like something in in my intuition was the right direction, I would speak up. And be respectful, of course. I'm a Gen Xer, like we're very respectful, and not that some generations aren't, but I really value the people that went before me, whether they're my bosses or my parents or whatever. I value their input. So, but I'm not afraid to say, that doesn't sit right.
Yeah, see, and I appreciate you saying that because my dad was always like that. My mom wasn't. So I was caught in that trap of yin and yang of better to be seen, not heard, better, you know what I mean? That sort of, so it took me a little bit to climb out of that shell. So I used to use humor to, cover up things. And I was in my early 20s when I started my first business, not paperboy, but official business, and realizing how many things that I need to work on and in my confidence, and that I had the seeds in me. And the reason I bring this up, people that are listening, is those seeds require personal development and watering, right? Some people it's natural, like Tony. For me, I had it, but it wasn't natural. Even though I seen it, I also had things that were messages that were confusing. So it was in my early, and it doesn't mean you can't, even if you're in your, I have people that listen to my show, they're in their 70s. You can change in your 70s.
Oh,
You can pick up a book and personally develop your brain. You'll have a quicker step in your 70s or 80s if you pick up a book that inspires you instead of watching the news 3 times a day or doom scrolling. People are shocked. There's lots of people in their 70s and 80s on social media. Both my parents are,
yeah.
right? They doom scroll for hours.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting you mention that because my dad doesn't doom scroll and he's super active. And you would, if you met him, you would not see, you would never think he's 83. I mean, he looks so much younger. So you can change
So
your point at
Oh,
any age.
my parents are both extremely active. My dad has a bad knee, had to give up. He played till he was 79, 80. Ball, fastball,
Yeah.
softball, hockey, everything, but his knee's shot now, so he can't. But he's always physically active in his garage, building stuff, coming up and helping family members. My mom still volunteers at the hospital. They're
Oh,
both active, but it's a choice. You're right, 100% a choice. And people look at them and go, "What? Your parents? No, there's no way." Right? I posted a picture a few days ago of my mom and me, and people were going, "What? There's no way she could be that."
yeah.
No, she's going to be 85 in April because they
Awesome.
take life is in session. This isn't a dress rehearsal. What are you willing to input to get a better output?
Yep. Yeah. And that's exactly it. My goal is to be a centenarian. So I better be taking care of my stuff now so I can live that long.
Absolutely, 100%. Proper sleep, good nutrition, and feeding your mind is part of what you feed, right? You just
Yes.
need to do that. So we'll get off that soapbox and go on to another one now.
Yeah. Let's move to another box.
Yeah, let's go on to the next box. Alcohol-free leadership and behavior first change is this new and improved soapbox for our guest lecturer to stand on today.
It's my favorite, one of my favorite topics.
Yes. So, you know, I've had so many people on in regards to alcoholism, and I've had it touch my life personally. I know people that have lost their mom and dad to being to not alcoholism, somebody driving, hitting them that was drunk. I know people that have destroyed their health and liver failure because of alcoholism. And, I'm not here to poop on people's parade. Moderation, if you can handle it, great. But I was really intrigued by this part of the conversation I want to get into about, you know, your relationship. Like at what point did you start evaluating your relationship with alcohol in the context of not just high performance leadership, but just your life in general? What has been your observations and your intuition, or what can you share about that journey that you've been on?
Yeah, this is, like I said, it is one of my favorite topics because it was not a linear line, my relationship with alcohol. And it wasn't something I drank once in high school. Drank once or twice in college because I was always driven. I was always working and going to school because I wanted to. I wanted independence. I wanted to pay for my own car and my own insurance and all these things. So I was always earning and doing and striving for something, whatever that something was. Um, and then in my 20s, I got married. I was working. We had started a family, and somewhere along the line, I just wasn't happy. And there was nothing that my ex-husband did. It wasn't the right match. Um, I can look back in hindsight now, all these 25 plus years later, and say, well, you know, I was, I just was a kid. I was young. The brain isn't fully developed till you're 25. Anyways, I found myself unhappy in a marriage. I decided to end it, and I felt a lot of shame around that. But what came with this divorce was I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we had 50-50 custody. And so we did 1 week on, 1 week off. So I found myself all of a sudden a part-time parent. And I was turning 30, and I'd started to live a part of my life that I didn't do in my 20s, which was this work hard, play hard mentality. And and I also took up the sport of triathlon at that time. And in that sport, like a lot of sports, it has that same work hard, play hard. You swim, bike, run, you earn the drink. And you're around a lot of high achieving, high pressure filled situation people. And, I just got sucked into that. And what it became was, and I would pair that with the pinking of alcohol. And if people aren't familiar with this term, it's not something I coined. Ann Dowsett Johnson, she's an author of the book Drink. But this was coming of an era where alcohol was marketed more towards women, what we call the mommy wine culture. And so they call it the pinking of alcohol. And funny enough, you see it now in gambling commercials, the pinking of gambling, like making it attractive to women. And so I was drinking wine every night and subtly, without me even noticing, that the bottles of wine became boxes because it was I could get 4 bottles of wine in a box and you can't see what's in the box, so you're just drinking. I don't know, you're just naive to it. And that was over, I started to question it in my mid 30s. I'm like, there was this whisper, this intuition, something's not right. And so I'd find myself Googling, am I an alcoholic? And I mean, in hindsight, major red flag, but there's such a stigma around this. And by the time I got to my late 30s, I was just like, yeah, so, this isn't this, I have a problem, but I was ashamed. So I go to AA and like any good type A driven person, I dive head in and I spent 15 months sober. And I really enjoyed the culture of, I should say this, the community of AA. The framework was not for me. It's 100-year-old, very male-centric framework, and it's great for some people. But for me, I started to have thoughts around it's a cult, or all this stuff that I don't think is true. But really, what I was doing was looking for a justification to go back out. And I did. After 15 months sober, I went back out for 3 more years. And I I was, although I was a high performer on the outside, very high functioning, I just was like, my core values, like you mentioned earlier, did not align with Toni Party Time. And that is what my friends called me, Toni Party Time. And she was something. But during the pandemic in 2020 is when I had an opportunity because in Michigan, we were shut down. We couldn't gather indoors. And as you noted earlier, I work in pro hockey. And so we were dark the 21-22 season, 2021 season. Anyway, and so we didn't play. I was still working full time, but from home. So I had this opportunity. I was like, you know what, Toni, you can either drink your face off or you can work on this because you have a window and you know it's a limited window. And so I chose to start looking into other methodologies. And so I found this book called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and I read it. And I'm like, this is more like me, rebellious, likes to color outside the lines. So in looking at language, the power of language, the word alcoholic, for instance, I'm not bashing the word alcoholic, but this is not recognized by the CDC. And so the correct term, the medical term is alcohol use disorder. But we don't give that stigma, alcohol. We don't say you're a cigaretteaholic. We don't say you're a cocaineaholic. But for whatever, alcohol got this label, and people don't want this label. What if we said alcohol free? All of a sudden, not for someone like me, I feel empowered. I feel like it's my choice. It's a health and wellness decision. And so, what if instead of the word relapse, which means, oh my gosh, I had a drink and now all 15 months that I had is erased and you're back to day one. And that's the AA framework. What if it's a data point? What if we look at it scientifically to say, what did I learn? Is this really that was it something that the perceived benefit, did it pay off? Or did I wake up with my umpteenth hangover? And so now I can go back and say, you know what? I learned from that. I'm not starting over. I just have, instead of 15 months in one day, I have 15 months. And if you do the math on it, whatever the math is, let's say you have 300 days alcohol free and 200 301 days. You do the math. You just whatever. That's 98% alcohol free or 99% alcohol free. It feels way different. And so I had a spark. I had hope that I could be quote unquote normal. And it was I've done a lot of hard things in my life, a lot, but this was probably the hardest. And the brain is plastic. You can rewire neural pathways in your brain. You can change, as we've talked about, at any age. And I did the work. And I'm sitting here now 5.5 years alcohol free, sober. I don't label myself an alcoholic because I don't, for me, it's just it's just too stigmatized. So I chose to quit out loud and tell my story wherever people will ask me about it, whether it's a TEDx stage, a podcast, a keynote speech, wherever I'm at, because I'm proud of it and I want to inspire other people who feel the way I did, that there's nothing wrong with them. The substance is addictive to anyone that drinks it, period. And it's a carcinogen. One bottle of wine is the equivalent of smoking 10 cigarettes.
Yeah, I know.
It's
It's pretty it's
fascinating.
but it's lack of knowledge, right? And
Correct.
we're in a society that inundates us with how you name me a movie or a TV show that doesn't sensationalize alcohol. Middle of the day, lawyer's office. Yeah, you want to drink and they're pouring drinks. What lawyer office in your right mind would you deal with if you walked in and they're offering you alcohol and they're drinking themselves? If that's the type of lawyer, accountant, or any professional that you'd utilize, that should scare you,
Uh,
right?
yeah,
We're
yeah,
just throwing we're they've made it so normalized to
yeah,
drink. And our kids see that and it's talked about and it's in the movies that are rated, yet we think, oh, those ratings don't exist. So we take our kids to movies that have excessive violence, alcohol, blah blah blah. Guess what? People, you need to shelter your children somewhat from not from everything in life, but alcohol is de facto standard in everything we do in life. It is just thrown at us day in and day out. The perception of what, you don't drink? What? Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm gonna watch some sports, or I'm gonna go and do this and drink with some friends, and it's always they're waiting from Monday to Friday. They can't wait till Friday, and then they drink their faces off to wake up Sunday with a hangover, and then they're miserable because they got to go back to work Monday.
yeah,
Repeat, rinse and repeat. Hamster wheel continues.
yeah. And I don't judge anyone that
I'm
drinks.
not either, but it's a
Yeah,
reality of our society,
it
and
is.
if people need to be aware.
They do. And again, this is where my rebel spirit, this coloring outside the lines, played very well for me. Because I could tap into that. For Annie Grace's framework. And so I became a certified coach under her program because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so after that, I launched my own business and 5 years ago to help other people achieve the same goal, to reduce or remove substances. They don't have to full out quit if they don't want to, but because I'm all about inclusivity. So I'm not going to shame a drinker if they want to drink and figure out a way to moderate. For me, it's not worth the effort. But if I have a client that wants to try and do that, I will support them in their efforts. What normally happens if they make it to a coach is eventually they will be like, wow, this is too much freaking work. I'd rather just quit. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And so I've been helping people all over the world for the last 5 years achieve their goals and a ton of success stories. And what you give yourself back is a lot of things, but I get asked this question, so I might jump ahead if you have this one,
Sure.
which is I gave myself back on average, most drinkers get about 800 hours back a year when you quit drinking. And the math is rough. It's thinking about drinking, actively drinking, and recovering from drinking. So people are always like, Toni, how do you do all the things you do? Well, one of the ways was I quit drinking because I gave myself back all this time. And I have filled this time with things that give me even more meaning and more purpose. And so I was hard driving and getting stuff done when I was a drinker. Boy, you take the alcohol out, and now I can continue to grow out and up. And that's one of the secrets to my success.
So you were a functional drinker at one
I
point in time.
I would label myself that. Yes, I was
Yeah.
daily drinking sometimes, binge drinking sometimes. It just, I mean, my life, if alcohol wasn't at wherever it was, I wasn't going. I was that person that was like, oh, they don't drink, I don't trust them. I was that a-hole. And yeah, that was me. And and I talk about it very openly and vulnerably because I know so many people can relate and they're so afraid to talk about it. And I get it. I totally get that. But I tell you the best way to move through something like this, whatever the addiction is to talk about it because it will shrink the shame.
Oh, absolutely. I like how you say you added there that it doesn't matter what the addiction. It can be you're addicted to weed, you're addicted to television, you're addicted to food, maybe you're a depressive eater, maybe you can be addicted to so many things. It's a realization and it's awareness to shrink down how you're feeling about it. To what do most people do though? Oh, I'll quit tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think about me? Or, oh, oh, I'll finish this work tomorrow. But you're right. When you free up your life from addiction, you can accomplish more. You talked about the 800 hours freed up. I look at the fact if you free yourself up from addiction, you usually your sleeping is better, your eating is better, your health overall is better, your mental, your emotional IQ, just everything shifts. And I'm talking from my own examples. I won't get into that with you today, but my own realization of different, times in my life where I sacrificed what I thought was a sacrifice when really it was an investment.
100.
It was
That's
that it
it.
was, it's the words that we use. Like I wrote earlier on, and I never got into that. We won't have time today. I'm definitely going to have you on again about being a wordsmith and what do we tell ourselves? Right? What are we telling ourselves? Are we telling us the words to encourage ourselves? Are we associating with the right people? Are we associating with the things that we watch, we read, we communicate? Are we aware that, oh my gosh, why do I feel icky after this conversation? Do we actually have the courage to analyze the fact that maybe we were the problem? Right? There's just so many different things that you brought up over our conversation thus far that I've written tons of bullet points down, but we'll have to get you on again. I like how you talked about, I wrote down, your data point. You talked about the data point, whatever you want to pronounce it. And we look at these different points in our lives and we realize that, oh my goodness, we're right here. What are we going to do to change? Are we going to stay caught? Or are we going to move forward? And a lot of people will think about that data point and think, well, what's the first thing they do? I think anyway, the people I coach for the last 20 years, they literally will think, what is that person going to think of me? What am I
Yeah.
going to do if I don't fit in with that group and drink with them this weekend? If I
Mhm.
don't smoke that joint, or if I don't go binge watch, whatever, where am I going to fit in? Guess what, people listening or watching? There's a whole new world out there for you if you're a person that feels trapped. You think you're functional or whatever, your addiction. You're literally you may be happy. I'm not here to judge you, but if you want more out of life, like Tony's saying, you can free up time. You can, and like I was adding, you can free up better sleep, better everything.
That's my hobby, Dwight. I love to sleep. People are like, you don't
Uh,
sleep, do you? Because of all the things you do. I'm like, oh no, no. I get 7 to 8 hours and
Me too.
my
I
husband
record
will
everything. I
my,
track everything.
yeah, my husband will tell you one of my hobbies is napping. I love a good nap and so
Oh,
I get
oh.
plenty of sleep, but I
Yeah,
have different
power naps are the
the
best,
best.
right?
The
Now I'm
best.
thinking about, oh, okay, when I get off this, I'm gonna have a power nap and think about how amazing this conversation was because Tony and I, my emotional IQ is needs to be recharged.
Right. Well, and that's what happens. Sometimes I got to go in my
Oh,
Tony bubble.
oh, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me. I agree 100%. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing about that. There's other things I wanted to talk about, but I want to make sure. There was one last question about the accountability portion of alcohol, and then we're going to move on to some other things. So when you talk about quitting alcohol, it helps us to be, when we first quit alcohol or any addiction, the accountability how does that accountability fit in? Like, is that accountability when you quit? Is that accountability to always yourself, or do you make yourself accountable to other people to help you through that addiction, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, so this is very personality driven, but I will say that there's some silver bullets in this. Accountability is one of them. And so I encourage individuals that I'm coaching that you need to tell at least one person, because in our minds we are amazing orators, we're amazing storytellers, and we don't talk. When we say things, it sounds a heck of a lot different, and so by saying it, it becomes more real, number one. And I always say go to a trusted person. It could be your significant other, it could be your best friend, it could be an adult child, it could be a clergy person, a therapist, a coach, one person. Now, for my story, I am someone that loves a good loophole. And so Tony Party Time would crawl right through a loophole if I found one. And boy, oh boy, did I find them. So for me, I decided my husband was from day one, like Josh was the person I talked to. I also talked to my kids about it. I wanted them to understand. I didn't want to shelter them from certain things. And while they saw me drink sometimes, they didn't see me inebriated, maybe twice, but still, I was very open with them about this. But this is the one thing I did do. On day 80, I said, okay, I'm going to post this on social media. And I was terrified, but it was the end of 2020. I was very worried what people would think about me, and I was worried about my job. I was like, what if they don't want me there anymore? And then I was like, screw it. If people want to talk about me, I that it's none of my business because it's behind my back. And second of all, if the hockey team doesn't want me, then what kind of organization is this anyways? They were silly limiting beliefs. But I posted up on day 80 that I had quit drinking 80 days ago and I was just going to keep going, and it was a health and wellness decision for me because it's my story. I can shape the narrative any way I want. I don't have to give them all the nitty gritty details. And as the years have ticked by, I've talked more openly about it and been more vulnerable, but I put it out there and the sky didn't fall. And all of a sudden now that loophole was shut because I told my world, whatever that, and I use air quotes because it's social media. But I did it in a big way. That way, if I ran into people when the world started to open up, I could go to a networking event or go to a work function or go to a dinner and not feel like I have to explain why I'm not drinking. It was on social media. So, and for the most part, the people I'm spending my day to day with are friends with me or connected to me on social media. So that accountability is a big one. And rebels don't like accountability. We say we don't, but we thrive when we have it. And I was aware enough to know that about me in my 40s. My 30-year-old version of Tony would have never said that, but as I've gotten wiser, I know better.
Oh, we know how to lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
We know how to look in the mirror if we can look at ourselves and lie to ourselves, right? We self-sabotage ourselves. We
Oh,
just do. I've been through periods of time in my life where, speaking of alcohol, my kids could justify and know this, that there was never alcohol in my house, ever. Then all of a sudden, my dad would leave alcohol and I'd hide it because he was a day drinker. He'd have a drink every single day. Growing up, he can't anymore because of some health issues. And I'm not here to criticize him, but that's the way every day. He had to have a whiskey, got home from work or whatever, and he'd have a whiskey. And I looked at that learned behavior and what happens with alcohol and stuff. And then I started having people would bring stuff. Here, oh, well, we brought your bottle of wine, and I had right behind me is a wine hutch, and that wine hutch would be full. And I'd tell my kids when they hit adults, some adults, if you want some of that, go ahead. And I didn't pay attention. Over a 9 month period, I looked down, there was one bottle left. I was like, what? I
yeah.
found out one of my daughter was taking, whatever, for parties and stuff. But I was also feeding that alcohol is okay. Now all of a sudden you'd open up my pantry and you'd look up top. There would be somebody left behind a half a bottle of vodka, or they left behind some coolers and this and that. And I started drinking, right? And I wasn't drinking a lot. I've never been a big drinker. People will say that, but and I woke up one day and I thought to myself, why? Why am I doing this? I don't like how I feel the next day. It slows down my brain processes. If I'm honest with myself, I can tell that whether I drank a lot or a little, I was feeling a body hangover, whether it was just tiredness. And, I quit for years. Then I didn't. I went through some Valley Despair stuff, just like you, started drinking again. And then last June was the last time I've had a drop of alcohol. And I'm not telling people that to pat me on the back. I have openly told, like you said, accountability, told family about it, and had the adult children go, Dad, we're proud of you. You've changed your nutrition again. You've stopped even having just 2 drinks a week. You're not having anything. And it makes me happy to be accountable,
Yeah, it
right?
does. It does. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And the sooner it's all about reframing it, right? It goes back to what we were talking about. It's language. Language is so important. How we talk to ourselves is so important. And self-talk gets in the way because we're really hard on ourselves in here.
Oh,
But the more we change and become the person we want to be, that self-talk becomes more positive. There's hope, and that makes a huge difference in quality of life.
oh, absolutely. There's many other things I wanted to discuss. We're going to skip over some few things, and hopefully you can promise me you'll come back on the show sooner than later. I don't think we can wait for your book launch because
I promise
there's
I'll come
it's
back.
a, that's a, such a great conversation, and I'm only through segment 2, and I had 5 segments.
Yeah,
So
maybe we'll come back in June and then again after the
well,
book.
you're so easy to talk to though, so I really appreciate that, and in your vulnerability, and you're authentic, and
Yes.
it's really good because there's so many other things I want to cover, but we're running out of time, so I'm gonna jump ahead, ask you a couple out of the sphere of what we were just talking about, something different. We won't really get into the hockey stuff today. That'll be a conversation for another day because that impresses me
Yeah.
big time, right? Just like what's her name? The assistant coach of is it the Kraken?
The Kraken, yes. Jessica?
Yes. Yeah, I follow her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
she's I don't know a lot about her, but it just impresses me because as a dad that tells my girls that they can do whatever, they can achieve whatever, in a man's world, uh, where we have months for, we honor Indigenous in Canada. We honor Black month. We have this month. We have Asian month. We have this and that. And my biggest argument and biggest pet peeve is, why isn't there a month for women? Why isn't there showcasing the fact that the strength, the tenacity, the good tenacity, the ability to nurture, the ability to be strong and firm, and so many things that men could only hope to have, women already have. And we're
Yeah.
trying to push them down. But anyway, this isn't a podcast about me. What I believe, but I champion the cause, and I believe that you have so much more to share with my
Thanks.
listeners, right? I
Do they
really
have
do.
in Canada? Is it because in the States in March it's Women's History Month. So I don't know if it is in Canada as well.
Um, I don't know, to be honest with
We'll
you.
have to look it up.
I'll have to look it up. But there's
Because it
so
might be.
many. I just find there's too much, even in sports like the National Hockey League. They have days for cancer awareness, in like Indigenous. They have the Asian special hockey games
Yeah.
for the Asian community. I know for a fact the NHL doesn't do anything to showcase and highlight women. Why not?
No, I know. We do it at
It's
our
it's
level,
it,
but
it's terrible. But
yeah.
anyway, I'll
Yeah.
get off my soapbox. It's just there's things that I've watched my children go to through my 4 daughters. My son has his own things that he goes through, but my 4 daughters that being pigeonholed, stuck in a box, being not listened to, not heard, feeling that their voice doesn't count, and then them being raised by a dad that was telling them, you know what, you don't get if you don't ask, right? Do you know the difference between the need and a want? So as they were raised, they were running into other people that never ever had that kind of teaching, which caused its own kind of conflict for them, right? So at the end of the day, all we can do is do our best
Right.
and just move forward. And like I said, we'll end up having you on again. We're going to go through a few more things here because we're running out of time. Um, so, when you talk about confidence, right? Confidence is based on what? I know the answer, but what would you say is that confidence is for people, right? Is it something that's based on personal development? Is it based on accomplishments? What does confidence mean to you?
So I've always, for me, and I've given this a lot of thought because I get asked a lot of times, like, how are you so confident? And I never had a great answer until I continued to reflect on it and read and have this growth mindset. And for me, what helped me build my confidence was accomplishment and I'll boil it down to achieving goals. And so if I set a goal, whether it's big or small, and I accomplish it, every time I accomplish a goal, I become more confident in myself and I trust myself even more. And self-trust is a big deal because if you don't trust yourself, you're not going to get very far and you're not going to be confident. So to me, it's boiled down to setting goals and accomplishing them. And also, I would say setting goals and not accomplishing them to see how one responds to that, because that will tell you where your grit and your resilience and your persistence is. And it's okay to not achieve everything. It's okay to fail. And I think that the fear of failure is BS. And that's a whole other conversation because I encourage people to have a failure resume. If we haven't failed at things, then we are not pushing ourselves hard enough.
Well, failure is simply a stepping stone to success. So if we can push ourselves to an avenue where we know that the failure rate is extremely high, we're prepared for it. But it
Right.
doesn't mean that we're not going to put ourselves out there. So we go out and we keep on working at it. And if it's part of that failure resume, to me, I just look at it and go, goodness, when people say to me, Tony, like, I just want to be happy, I want to be successful all the time. I said, that's impossible to have, to be happy all the time, to be successful all the time. How do you know the difference if you haven't failed, if you haven't pushed yourself, if you haven't had sadness, if you haven't had grief, if you haven't had, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? Those moments make you solid. They make you strong. They make you trust yourself more. And you talked about the fact of goal setting. One thing that I want to add though, people listening, when you achieve your goal, please, please pat yourself on the back.
Yes,
Give
celebrate.
yourself credit. Don't celebrate so long that you get camped and you get complacent, but
Right.
celebrate. Make sure. I've interviewed so many successful people in my life. I know so many people that are, worth hundreds of millions of dollars to people that are worth, they're dollar heirs. They're not even thousandaires. You know what I mean? And the
Right.
variety of people. The reason I bring that up is everybody's got the same stick. They just want to be heard, they want to be appreciated. And at the end of the day, everybody's got the same challenges. Money doesn't fix it. It just doesn't. Maybe it gives
No.
you more access to things, but you got to
Right.
work on that 6 inches between your ears. Celebrate your wins. That's
Yeah,
the next success. And then start moving forward, right? And if
exactly.
somebody brings up to your success, don't go and poo poo them and say, oh, that was months ago. Say, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And then relive that moment for a quick second, move on, right?
Right. And do it again.
Right? Don't, my point is don't take your win and just downgrade it
Correct.
to
And
others, right?
don't leapfrog over it. I completely agree. I completely
100%.
agree.
So we're going to touch on your book, Reinvention, Rebellious Success, and the Cathartic Process is what I labeled this segment. Why? Because I believe writing a book is very cathartic. When I wrote my book, it literally, I kicked myself in the pants. I patted myself in the back from one page to one chapter to the next to realize that there was things that I hadn't really celebrated. There was things that I really hadn't addressed. And it was a realization. So it was an emotional roller coaster for me. I would never trade it in. I loved it, but it was 5.5 months of constant everyday work on it, along with dealing with my editor, publisher. It was just so. What was it like for you? I know you're still in the process of writing your book, but what has the process been like? Can you share?
Yeah, so one of the things and obviously we won't have time to get into it today, but I promise I'll come back and my TEDx, I did touch on this a little bit, but I created 6 leadership pillars that came out of my rise in hockey. And the reason I bring this up is I knew I always had a book in me. I knew that. And after I did my TEDx, I wanted to write the book. I just didn't know what about, and is it from a personal memoir angle, or is it from a business leadership angle, or is it from a professional or a personal development self-growth angle? And why, and in my mind, I'm like, why does it need to be or on any of those? So my first leadership pillars go to the experts. And so I found an expert, which was an author. I respected her book that she wrote. Her name's Michaela McKenzie. She wrote the book, The Future of Feminism in Sports. And I reached out to her and we created this great relationship. I didn't know that she was a ghostwriter. And so I chose to hire an expert to help me bring this book out of me and help me write the book. So Michaela helped me ghostwrite the book. And that's how, another how. So I went to the expert, she helped me. And then I've been learning about the publishing side. And so the book was, the manuscript was finished in October. And then I submitted it to several different hybrid publishers. I chose to go hybrid, and because I wanted to retain my intellectual property and have help promoting it and things of that nature. So the process was, oh my gosh, learning so much, very cathartic because I'm being interviewed over and over and over again, and then I'm reading the drafts and changing and re-interviewing, and some of it was hard. Some of it was really hard. And I took that. My book is creative nonfiction. It's a three-legged stool, rebellious success. It's part memoir, part self-growth, part business leadership.
Yeah, and for the listeners or viewers, I'm sorry, there's just too much stuff to to cover, but that should excite you to come back to another episode, right?
Yes.
Or even better, go into the show notes at giveaheck.com and find the picture of Toni and go down and read the summaries and the chapter summaries, and all the links will be there so you can go check out this wonderful lady and everything that she's doing to help other people out. She's got a good, go check the website out. Register for a preview look of her book too, which is
Yes.
going to be coming out right away. So
Yeah, it
simple
is.
little email, right? Put it in, check out the
Yep.
site, put in Google Toni Will, and you'll see lots of great information. And yeah, you owe it to yourself to fill in the gaps that I've left. And I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's all right. We hit it off, so it's easy to keep talking. I'll come back.
I appreciate that. I want to ask you, what principle that you're writing about in the book would be the one that continues to guide you today? What would be the number one principle?
You know, I think the number one principle is tied right back to the title of the book, which is there is no one right way to define success for a person. There's no one singular path. You can create your own path and and be successful. You can be different and be successful. And so that's the whole message and the whole purpose, and yeah, that there's no one right way.
And that's perfect. That's exactly what I want people to hear. Quit defining your life inside fixed walls,
Exactly.
right?
Be you.
Realize,
Just
yeah, you can go outside the walls. There can be a gray area in your life, and you can still enjoy everything about your life, and realizing that the rules that we live by, the learned behaviors, were created by humankind to control us. It's not necessarily good control. Dialing it back to what Toni said, AA is 100 years old. Do you think it needs a revamp? I've been involved in AA, not for myself personally, but as a sponsor to take people to it. And I know it's broken. It's got some good points in it, don't get me wrong. But my point though is that we have to evolve. And the things that are taught to us don't necessarily have to be our de facto standards. So learn to live outside the solid black and white and venture into the gray. There's so much more of the world of gray than there is in the black and white,
100%.
right?
100%. That's that growth mindset.
Yeah, and I love it. So Toni, if you could leave our listeners with one message that proves it's always worth giving a heck and never giving up about growth, identity, and purpose, what would it be?
I was saying, so when I step on stages and I get nervous once in a while, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, my husband, he's the person I go to for, cheerleading, comfort, support, and he tells it to me straight. And he'll always say this to me, so I will pass this wisdom along. He says to me, Toni, just be you. And so that's what I would pass along to the listeners. Just be you. And don't try to change to be anything that you're not. You're good enough. So just be you.
I love it. Right? Like our fingerprints, people, we're all unique. Let your brightness, let your light shine. And those that are willing to accept your light, accept who you are, good, bad, and indifferent, that is going to be the best tribe that you're ever going to create. It doesn't have to be family, it doesn't have to be your current associations. You can evolve and change and grow, and you can have those people be left behind by choice. Your choice was to grow. So good for you. Congratulations. So, Toni, what's the best way that people can reach you?
ToniWill.com. There's the newsletter that you mentioned, drop their email in there. There's also, you can connect with me on there for speaker, coach. I do complimentary discovery calls. I answer all my own emails. I do have an assistant, but I like to be hands-on with my anyone that wants to reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on all social media, but LinkedIn, I'm very active on at Toni Lentini Will, and Instagram at I'm Toni Will.
Yeah. And again, for those new to the Give a Heck podcast, you can go to giveaheck.com, go to the top pick podcast. You will see a picture of Toni. You will see a summary of the show. You'll see chapter summaries. You'll see all her links to social media, to her website, as well as the full unedited transcript. Why do I do that? Some people like to read. It's shocking, but I started doing that already 200 episodes ago. So you'll find everything you need to reach out to Toni and check out her great work. Like, unbelievable how much we never got through, yet I feel like we had such a fantastic, conversation where so much nuggets of good growth for people and information and knowledge that this we having this conversation, you might be that spark for them. So
I hope
thank you
so.
for investing your time with me. I really appreciate it.
Same.
Is there any last thing you want to add before I wrap up the show?
No, other than I'll be back.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. So, Toni, thank you for your honesty, your leadership, and for example you were setting in professional sports and beyond. I truly appreciate you being here. Again, for those that are listening or watching today, if this conversation on executive leadership, alcohol free performance, resilience, and intentional living resonated with you, I encourage you again to go to the website, check it out, connect with Toni, right? You owe it to yourself. To our listeners and viewers, thank you once again for investing your time with us today. I do not take this lightly. You invested your time, and I so appreciate it. I hope this made a difference for you today. Please subscribe to the Give a Heck podcast on your favorite platform and leave a comment or review. It helps the show grow and allows more people to discover conversations that challenge them to step up and live with intention. Until next time, live a life on purpose and not by accident. And remember, it's never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.